Will blockchain ever replace the sovereignty of government? Blockchain is envisaged to give rise to a number of possibilities in changing the modes of governance. What does this mean for the current form of governance, and what are the potential changes for future forms of government? Mirko de Malde, Linkius. Matthias Klies, Europe Coin. James Muscat Azzopardi, Muscat Azzopardi and Associates. Vit Jedlička, Liberland. Tawny Lane Kasserly, Cultu.re. Moderated by Nate Whitehill, CryptoSlate.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having us. My name is Nate Whitehill. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CryptoSlate. CryptoSlate is a hub for cryptocurrency researchers and blockchain enthusiasts. We're based in Seattle, Washington. So today we have a great panel for you. Let's start with a brief round of introductions.
Yeah, my name is... Is it working?
Yeah.
You know what's fun?
My name is Matthias Klies, and I'm the CEO of EuropeCoin Finance Cloud API. We are building an interface where everybody can connect to and launch his service in a home device with an app store to install apps and services for their financial needs.
I'm Mirko de Malde. I'm Chief Operation Officer at Green Chaos, a consultancy company, and I'm also president at the Italian chapter of the Government Blockchain Association.
I'm Dr. James Azzopardi, based in Malta. We're an advisory firm, Credence, and we do the regulatory, legal, financial, and the whole range of advisory services.
Hello, I am Tony Lane Casserly. My company is called Culture, and I work on global citizenship and the thesis, really, that in the next century or so, there will be a large portion of our humanity that will no longer organize in the way that the traditional nation state is structured. Much like blockchain revolutionizes finance, we're looking at the transition into new forms of governance.
My name is Vit Jedlička. I'm a founder and president of Liberland, which is a newly created country 3.5 years ago. Right now we've got 600,000 people that are on board, and we really want to build the freest jurisdiction and the most friendly to crypto jurisdiction on earth that also will make the criminals liable. So we are trying to fix this new era of crypto anarchy which is coming with this era of old nation states which are harming the economic growth, and we are trying to find the best way how to put these things together.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so this first question is going to be for the group, and feel free, anyone to jump in at any point. The question is, which of these events are most likely to happen? A, blockchain will transform government. B, blockchain will be ignored by governments. Or C, blockchain will replace governments.
Yeah, may I jump in? I think it's not about replacing. Blockchain will be very helpful for governments, will transform them. In my opinion, the most helpful tool to help with better localization of governance. So if you see Europe, for example, it's a very centralized system, and the need of the people for more localization manifests in many unpleasant political movements. And in fact, localization is not about borders. Localization is about the oldest form of decentralization we had.
Once Ronald Reagan famously said, if it moves, you tax it. If it continues moving, you regulate it. And if it continues moving again after regulation, then you subsidize it. The idea is that the government would for sure not ignore blockchain innovation. And I agree with you that it would be helpful for creating a new set of citizen-centric services and to improve transparency, which most of the time is not really there in government services.
I think that blockchain will not replace government, but blockchain will be an extremely important technology that will be used in various sectors. And I think we'll see some very interesting prospects happening very soon, ranging from, I was recently discussing with two interesting projects. One of them is, we live today in a post-truth era. So we live today in an era where I can go on any stage, or I can be a leader of one of the largest countries in the world, go up and state things which are absolutely not true and affect this world. So there is a possibility for a truth-based blockchain system that could automatically check the truth of what someone is saying. Another possibility, this is far-fetched and it won't happen, but it's worth thinking about, is a blockchain system where let's say, replacing an election system where people vote in real time on a constant daily basis through using your digital identity. And I can only be in government, and I can only pass laws, and I can only have legitimacy if in real time I do control the majority. Is this interesting technologically? Yes. Will it really ever happen? No, because it's not workable. But I think there are a number of ideas that we'll see, and they will radically change the space.
I disagree a bit with the truth question, because maybe a blockchain can validate the truth of what somebody's saying. Yeah. But didn't we know that it wasn't untrue when somebody lied? Nobody cared.
Yeah. This is a way of knowing. If you're speaking about facts, you're speaking about facts. So if I'm Donald Trump and I say, look, I'm going to pass tax cuts before the next election. There's no Congress before the next election. I mean, that is clearly untrue. So being red buzzer, and hopefully people who don't have the knowledge to look at that and say, no, I'm saying not all Mexicans are rapists, will be able to accept that. Now, you'll have a number of people who will always be extreme right or extreme left. That's where we're going. We're going towards...
The truth point is more about caring than about knowing the truth. The truth, they know the truth.
That's a good point.
Yeah, actually,
that's a very good point.
Well, and in another level, I think rather than saying that truth is something that is far more subjective. If you look at the modern state of media, every story is an opinion. There might be facts within a story, but all stories are opinions. Now, if we had, let's say, uTorrent for whistleblowers, where people could upload pieces of information that they found anonymously, and that information could be used to inform journalism, then we're merging closer to something that looks like a verified fact-based society, where actual news stories or pieces of information can be verified not as right or wrong, right? It's the same thing as human nature. Are people good or bad? People are people. Stories are pieces of information. I think what we should focus on is really reaching a broader human consensus in our understanding of what is real. So maybe two people from two different backgrounds can say, you know, we can completely disagree on how we solve this problem, but we can reach an understanding about what is real in this information. We can reach a consensus, and through that, actually incentivizing bridge building. Now, to your question of what will blockchain do for government? Will blockchain replace government, right? I say change happens in two ways. It takes place with time or with chaos. And I'd far rather have change taking place with time than a complete systemic upheaval. Now, what we're working on with global citizenship is really addressing populations that have no nation of reference. There could be whole countries that end up underwater, entire economies that end up demonetized because digital currencies have replaced the billions of dollars of inflation that they've artificially created. And really, with blockchain technology, I say this to the Fortune 100 companies that I teach, as well as institutions, it's really may the best economy win. So I believe that if blockchain technology creates greater economic opportunity for citizens than they're provided with in a traditional standpoint from whether it's a company in a private sector or a nation, the competitive landscape is shifting. Now, global citizenship is the ability for someone who may have no host nation of reference to gain access to the opportunity to be verified within the borders of a country, merely by having their community, their network of peers, verify that they are who they say they are, that they can be trusted, and that they have these skills. And there's an entire population of people that would be affected by the refugee crisis, migrants, climate change, that this conversation isn't addressing. So I'd like to bring those people to light and say that our landscape is shifting, and blockchain is a huge enabler to help people and enable that change.
Very good.
I think that the C is right. You know, ultimately, the blockchain systems will replace governments, and it can actually happen quite fast. I think it will start with a currency reform, like kind of a global currency reform. We can see how the whole country starts to embrace crypto in just a couple of months. Venezuela started to accept all cryptocurrencies, while their own currency becomes worthless, and that's a great thing, right? We're getting honesty to the places where governments normally were the most dishonest in ways of they were printing tons of money. And we see that problem, of course, with ECB. We see that problem with the American Central Bank. So that's a great start. What we believe that the transition will also go into, of course, it's going into financial sector, banking, etc. But it will go into governance. What Liberland is trying to do is to build a first decentralized jurisdiction based on Kleros platform right now in cooperation with DAOstack, 2 key partners. And we want to build an ecosystem where all the players will be able to hold accountable for what they are doing, and the justice will be 10 times faster, 10 times easier, it will be accountable. So, the idea behind Liberland is to really combine the most freedom with the latest blockchain technologies in a reasonable way.
I agree in certain points, yeah, because apart from the question of honesty, this is a different topic. I can say, as though I'm quite unhappy with the regulation points, what in terms of the own adoption of blockchain ideas inside of the government, there's pretty much happening inside Europe.
Do you see, Matthias, that the biggest barrier to adoption is clear and consistent regulation?
In terms of financial market, yes. And the problem there is that the government has shifted too much of the responsibilities to the blockchain industry. So there, the government asks us, is it a security, is it not a security, to take an easy topic, yes? And each company has to pay to verify it, and in fact, the government doesn't even be clear what itself thinks what the security is and whatnot, yeah?
Absolutely. Mirko, what are the advantages of storing our biomedical data on the blockchain, and what are the risks?
Well, I think that it's, first of all, you don't really want to store your actual biomedical data on the blockchain for obvious reason. But starting from biomedical data, but in general with data that it's in regard of my person, I want to get control. I want to get more direct access to the data that is about my person. And this can be enabled in a more efficient way by blockchain. What is interesting is that now citizen and patient are completely disenfranchised from their data. They don't control at all what happens with their data, while the data actually move along between government, private institution. And this is actually a problem, because we are moving in a world where data will be really a fundamental thing, and privacy will be a fundamental right. And ownership on the data as well, that will be a fundamental right that we have to be able to enforce. Now, people don't have any means to enforce fundamental rights as privacy and data ownership. What I think that blockchain will be a big enabler, a big technological enabler for these new categories of rights that will be coming up in the next future, and that will be changing our democracy.
Absolutely. Tony, could you talk about your work with culture and how you see culture as potentially supplementing governments to be able to use governance for blockchain?
Sure. Well, culture is a really simple idea based on a very obvious insight to me. I have thousands of friends around the world that are buying up thousands of acres of land. The real estate market is shifting, and the way that people will live in the future is also changing. People are buying up abandoned castles. Actually, the Italian government last year was giving them away for free. Did you guys know that? If you sent in one piece of paper, the Italian government would give you an entire castle for free on the condition that you brought in tourism. So you could host one event like this a year and get a free castle. And that our relationship to property and human organization is shifting, and that we'll need to look for more local methods of governance to really create structures around these communities. Because after all, what is a blockchain? What is Ethereum? What is Bitcoin? What is EOS? They're all communities, and the decentralized applications are sub-communities that are grouped around not only people but economies. So I'm really looking at this from building a human infrastructure, not merely an economic infrastructure. The for-benefit way that we look at that is Web of Trust, which is an open source standard to help people take ownership of their identity, their land titles, their marriage contracts outside of the bounds of a traditional jurisdiction. So I don't know if you guys know this either. If you live in Israel, unless you ascribe to the fundamental religious law there, it's actually illegal for you to get married in the country. You can fly, this is why destination weddings are an industry. You can fly to Cyprus and be married, or somewhere else, and then return to Israel and have your marriage be validated. But now with blockchain technology, that might be as simple as using a VPN and having a registered agent from another jurisdiction verify your marriage contract. That's what our open source standard Web of Trust aims to do, to create a global jurisdiction. Our for-profit company, Culture, is really looking at helping people connect with communities, and those people in communities connect with resources. Because the truth is, resources around the world are already abundant. They are just not evenly distributed yet.
And just to be clear, Culture will act as a platform for decentralized applications to run, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's both for decentralized applications to give people marketplace access to communities and decentralized applications that are used in, around, and with communities. So one simple use case is if I'm coming to Malta, I might not want to stay in a hotel. I might want to stay with friends. You can search for people that are a part of your communities and then stay somewhere potentially for free. Resources are easily shared when people can trust each other. So that's really what we're working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Super interesting. James, could you talk about, do you ever see smart contracts as potentially replacing any of the aspects of law or what lawyers do?
No, replacing, I don't think so. I think smart contracts are proving to be and will prove to be a very, very useful tool for us and in general. We need to be there advising on smart contracts because, as we know, the big challenge will be translating what we're drafting into a smart contract. So we will have to be a bit more savvy with coding, and we'll have to rely on the technical persons who are translating that into code. We will also see a number of legal issues that we're not even in a position to predict as yet. So we're very, very, very early with smart contracts. But we're going to see some very, very interesting challenges. It's something that we're looking forward to.
Very interesting, thank you. So during the 1990s tech revolution, the United States really became the go-to location for internet startups. Why is the United States seeming less likely to lead the next blockchain revolution?
It's three letters, SIC, right? It's crazy, right? Like the enormous debates now, what is security and what is utility token is, of course, damaging the whole industry. And I think it's one of the, in the history, it will be viewed as one of the most ridiculous debates that we ever had, that the regulatory body, United States, is trying hard to slow down the whole process. And of course, it's like the Americans shooting themselves into the leg. It's just like, China banning crypto. They're just slowing themselves down. That's the great thing about these technologies, right? You cannot fight it. It's coming. And you can only slow yourself down in its adoption. So what we are doing, for example, now in Liberland, that we are the first jurisdiction to be able to incorporate fully tokenized companies. We're having this pilot already, and everybody will be able to trade shares as long as they pass some sort of KYC. So I think there is a great space now for all these innovators, also in terms of jurisdiction. And I think it's great, because now we are in the age where basically you can have your own country. And you can prove yourself to the world that you're able to provide a better jurisdiction. All the things now with the DAOs are embedded into the smart contracts, and you no longer need a country to incorporate yourself. But if you provide a nice framework for others to incorporate themselves, you are actually creating a new country.
But there's another, sorry.
The US has to learn, if you don't write it, it writes you.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a contrary view to that, and maybe it's an unpopular one, but we should be embracing regulation. So why is regulation there? People speak about the SEC and speak about the SEC as being some sort of a demon. But ultimately, the SEC is taking a pretty sensible position, saying, listen, you're going out there, you're selling something that looks like security, you're not calling it security, but I need to protect, ultimately, investors. So we can't go out and say, listen, this is a really cool technology, yay, blockchain, it's a very, it should be free for all, but no, it shouldn't, because there you still have scams, you still have fraudsters, you still have people who are selling things that they should not be selling to unsuspecting people. Look at Malta. Why are all these people here? Look around you. This is huge. Delta Summit was big, this is huge. Why do I have 12,000 people coming here in a month? Because of regulation. Without regulation, we would be absolutely nowhere. This happened to us in gaming. We became the #1 gaming jurisdiction globally for online gaming. The success is, it's huge. Why? 2004, regulation. Before regulation, everyone was saying, okay, gaming, look, this is, why should we regulate? But that doesn't really work. It sounds great, but maybe speaking from a cynical 42-year-old lawyer point of view, it doesn't work.
This is something that I wanted to contribute in this. Exactly, this is the point. What is the role of the government in this stage? Is that it would be nice to, okay, yes, blockchain, self-sustainable democracy, self-sovereign, without need of government. This is not the case. You still need government, because otherwise it's much more easier to find yourself into a sort of crypto-anarchism, which is guided by other interests but are not transparent. Government is there to provide regulation, to provide guidance, and it's very important that you continue doing this.
I have to agree. I have not known much about Malta before I went here, and I was amazed that even on the way from the airport to here, I was able to talk to the taxi driver about cryptocurrency like I would be already on the conference. Yeah, this is amazing, really.
Really good. That's really great.
USA should look more to Malta. Yeah.
You're all welcome.
Well, we're out of time, guys. Thank you so much. That was super interesting. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.